Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Flat Earth School, the school that has around us 24/7 since the beginning of existence. I'm Mitchell from Australia, merely a student like the rest of us here, always learning, always questioning, just using reality as our guide. It is the best teacher, our Flat Earth School, our nature reality outside that's around us, like I said, 24/7. If you guys don't get out there enough, you need to, because like I keep saying, it is the best teacher. It is our reality. It was what we need to use to distinguish what is real and what is not. Don't use your imagination, use reality. Uh, Today, we are going to go through some curvature evidence. Apparently, now it's nothing new. I just want to hit the nail on the head on this subject about the black swan. So, obviously, the black swan's been around for almost 2 years now, 23 months. Well, 23 and a half months. It will be 2 years on the 1st of January, 2022. 2 years, and there are still people who do not understand what the black swan is, what the argument is, and how it absolutely debunks our world. And I'm going to have a special guest again today, Adam Meakin. He is here in the studio. He's going to go through some incredible findings from. I just took a heap of drone pictures the other day from different heights, the exact same location, and just went up and up and up and took some drone pictures because we wanted to see if there was a relationship between the horizon and the apparent angle of the sun, which is the elevation altitude. And the findings that Adam came up with were pretty astounding. I will introduce Adam. How are you, Adam? He's in the background.
Yeah, evening, mate. Evening, mate. Yeah, interesting stuff. I'd say it was. Start with David Weiss's stuff you were looking at, thinking, oh, what would I like to see there? What would I like to get out of that? And you were kind enough to humour me. So
yeah,
did a little bit of work on it. And
like you've done some great work on it. There's a heap of data.
Flat Earther, but
It's a heap of data to go through and to kind of to plot like you did. Like, yeah, we're going to go through it in the second half of the show. The first half, I want to just show some videos that I didn't get to share yesterday because we had a very special guest yesterday. Very impromptu. His name was Shane Whack Whack. He was a local Aboriginal man. If you guys saw my stream from yesterday, I was just streaming at a beach, just talking about a flirt perspective and our reality. And a beautiful Aboriginal man just comes up to me and says, "What are you doing?" And he wanted to open up to me about his culture, about the local environment, the Dreamtime stories about the Aboriginal culture. It was absolutely, I was honoured. It was fantastic. So if anyone missed that, go to the end of yesterday's stream. I think it was number 80, and I was so honoured because usually Aboriginal people don't open up about their culture willingly. You have to be a pretty selected person to be told what I was told about the local environment yesterday. So please, I encourage everyone to go to Flat Earth School number 80, which was yesterday, after this show, obviously, and go and see what Whack Whack had to say about the world and about the local environment. I will want to get him back on and actually pick his brain about a few things. And he actually took me back to his makeshift shelter after the stream yesterday, and he said, "Come back anytime. Like, bring your kids." Like, I told him I homeschooled, and he said, "Yeah, bring your kids. Like, I want to teach them about Aboriginal culture." And like that sort of thing just isn't willingly offered by many people. Like, yeah, firsthand, I think he said he was about 48 years old, so he has had his culture handed down by his elders and the elders before him, and he actually speaks the Aboriginal dialect of our local area, which is also pretty rare. Unfortunately, there is not many willing Aboriginal people to actually speak their dialect to people, to random people of the public. Pretty much, he didn't know me, I didn't know him. He just came along and was just a brilliant guy. So hopefully I'll have him back on Flat Earth School just to pick his brain about everything Aboriginal culture. Today we're going to go into what I said. We got a bit of Earth curve, apparently. No, we definitely don't. But just humor me for a bit. I do want to shout out my patrons before we get too far into it, because you guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys. If you want to become a patron, if you like my work, link is in the description below. These awesome people are my patrons, and I want to shout out to you guys right now. Seth Yentis, Nancy, Lumberjack, Makai Bohapu, Hitberio, David Weiss, Dale Bourne, John Furr, Dusty Ryder, Gobbledy T, Will Brax, Ronald Jurek, BMLSB69 Bo, John Swartz, Brian Leakey, Alec One Show, Michael Kahn, Malcolm Foster, Angie S, Dawn Judds, and Paul on the Plane. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support and for liking my work enough to send me a monetary value. It is really, I really appreciate it. Okay, so I'm gonna share a video that I wanted to go into yesterday. It's kind of about perspective, but it's all just about our reality. It is everything that we see here in reality. If we're seeing it it's with our eyeballs, with a camera, with a telescope, with any optical device. If we're seeing it, it all has perspective built into it. That's just the way our world works. That's just the way our vision works. You can't get away from it. But for whatever reason, it's quite obvious, the globe believers do not like to talk about perspective. They call it perspective, something that apparently only happens in our flat earth paradigm. No, it happens in reality. And that's why I say to people, get out and enjoy your flat earth school. It is around you 24/7 since the beginning of existence, and everywhere you look has perspective built into it. Things apparently appear to get smaller the further they are from you. If you're moving away from something, or something's moving away from you, it gets apparently smaller. The angular size of that object gets smaller. And eventually, it will get so small that you can't distinguish it from the things around it. That is when it reaches the diffraction limit. And that is something that the globe believers are terrified to talk about. They don't want to talk about the diffraction limit because that is exactly why. Well, one of the reasons why, there are so many, but that is one of the reasons why ships disappear bottom up. Things are blocked at the horizon. It is one of the reasons why we have a horizon, the diffraction limit. Things just kind of mold into each other. They reach the diffraction limit. They can't be resolved, distinguished between each other. That's one of the reasons why we have a horizon. There's lots. I was going to go through the 86 or 87 reasons for the horizon, for things disappearing bottom up from a globe believer, Tim Osman. But we'll see how we go. I do want to get these videos in and the presentation from Adam Meekin, so we'll see how we go. But this is a video I want to show yesterday from DITRH. He puts out a lot of great videos about the sun, about the way we see the sun. I was going to take you through it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to DITRH, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, David Weiss. That's just kind of some images, some examples of how our world could work. I'm not saying it does definitely work like that. I'm not saying that the sun is a physical object, but that is just how the sun could be setting, quote unquote. It could be physically blocked by clouds, definitely not by Earth curve, something we're about to go into shortly. But Adam, what do you think about that video? Do you think the sun is actually physically blocked by clouds as it gets to the horizon?
I think that video did very well using orthographic view to describe what's happening. You saw the way it disappeared. That's quite clever. No, I think the sun, as far as we view it, isn't physical. We have to accept that, but I don't think that comes into context. This is what's blocking what David's describing there. What's blocking the sun is perspective. That's what that's about. It's getting it to that lowest angle where you see in the cloud at that point. Well, actually below that level of that cloud, it just disappears. The Rayleigh criterion is no longer met. There's nothing to resolve. So it looks like there's those angles, and it's that interruption of the cloud layer that's at that same height, that's clearly lower than the sun as it was earlier, but as those angles close into each other, I thought that was a really clever way of showing it orthographically what you're seeing, because that's in the front and that's in the foreground. You're no longer able to resolve it. You might get blurring and squidgy suns like we see. Yeah, I thought that was quite a very clever way. Like I say, I think using the orthographic, I mean, it shows the limitations in terms of what they have to do to try and describe it, because orthographic is very limited. As your giant ladybugs demonstrated yesterday.
That was a good one, wasn't it? Yeah,
Fantastic.
The giant ladybugs.
Going for the hills, ballers.
From Taboo Conspiracy, yeah. That was a good one from yesterday. And it's interesting to think that it's like the clouds as well. It had an observer right underneath the cloud. It looked like, from that observer's point of view, the cloud was right above them. But as the clouds move away from you, it appears that the clouds, you can't really see the clouds anymore. You can't really resolve the clouds. I've got a question in the chat here. Michael DM Olsen says, how does diffraction notice start at the bottom of the ships rather than at the top? And that's just how we view things. Things that get close together, so that the ship appears, the narrowest angle to the ship is at the bottom where it meets the water. And as it moves away from us, those two things, the water and the ship, they pass the Rayleigh criterion. They pass the diffraction limit of whatever we're viewing them with, whether it be our eye, a camera, a telescope, or anything. And they appear to merge into each other. So as the ship goes away from you, the angle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually the ship disappears from the bottom up. So it doesn't know to start. It's I don't know. Is it an intelligent thing, do you think, Adam Meakin? Is it obviously we can explain it, we can describe it, but do we know the cause of it? Do you think is it one of those things that could be intelligent? Does it know to start at the bottom of the ship, the diffraction limit?
It's defined by the optics. So the first point of definition is your height. That decides your angle to view the whole of the ship and the ability to resolve it. At the point where you start to say, well, why does it disappear at the bottom? Well, there's that first limitation, which I say is, just turn the heater down. It's freezing out here, Mitchell. It's not summer over there.
I'm about to take my jumper off here.
Stop. So that first limitation is described by your height above the deck. And then the second point, you're looking at both that angle to it, but you've got then looking at the top and the bottom of the ship. Now, the top of the ship, let's say it's limited by your height, and that's how far away you're going to be able to see it and resolve it. But the top of it, it's not got any other limitations to your field of view. It's open. It's not obstructed by perspective in any way. But the bottom of the ship is obstructed by perspective. So the further away you go, the more data is contained within that small angle, more surface, more information, more dots of light. And that's where you start to see the dissolution occurring first, because there's so much more data being received to the eye at that point that the Rayleigh criterion is broken, and no longer do you get single Aries discs identifiable along the bottom. The top's still pretty cool. If you can see it, it's there. There's not much interfering. There's no extra data, just the sky. But there's so much data being taken in that angle in terms of distance. Yeah, the additional distance across the surface that the surface is creating, and it's that interferes with the signal, as you showed with the Rayleigh criterion yesterday. So that's why we see it dissolve first, our resolution.
Yeah, it's when the Rayleigh criterion and the Aries disc, they define how we see things. When there's two objects that are close together, as the observer moves away from those objects, or the objects move away from them, they appear to merge into each other. So in the case of the ship is obviously touching the water. They're two objects that can merge into each other. If you move away from them, they appear to merge into each other from the bottom up, because that's where the narrowest angle is. I just want to play this video of the sun as well, to kind of demonstrate that for people that say you can't zoom in on the sun and move it. I beg to differ. Did the sun just rise then? Or did the diffraction limit just get a bit bigger, a bit further away? It's all to do with the focal length and the aperture of the camera. Now, granted, this has a bit of glare in it, but when we zoom in on a camera, this is exactly what can happen with things like the coin on the table. We zoom in, we get a better diffraction limit. And this is just to signify that the sun doesn't go away over the horizon. It just reaches the diffraction limit of your eye, of the camera, of any device that you're looking at the sun through. Is the sun rising and setting there just by simply zooming in and zooming out? No, it's all to do with resolution. We're resolving the sun better as we zoom in. We're getting more information. And the point the videographer of this video was making is that reflection there, that nice reflection on that flat surface is only available on a flat surface. We wouldn't see a nice reflection all the way to the sun, from the observer to the sun, on a curved surface. That is just simply not possible. What do you think about videos like this, Adam, Meakin? Yeah. It's kind of a bit of a parlor trick because there is glare involved, but for people who say you can't just zoom in on the sun and it get better resolution,
it exemplifies the point in terms of Rayleigh criterion. Just to put it simply, at the furthest distance with the least at the same distance with the least magnification, you've got all of that data coming in so many pixels, and the eye is unable to resolve the difference at the horizon of the circular sun that's still floating above it. There's so much information coming in that to the resolution of the eye, it cannot, or even that camera lens, it cannot distinguish at that distance all of those individual Aries discs. Yeah. But when you zoom in, you magnify it, don't you? So you stretch the distance between each Aries disc again. That's what the purpose of the magnification does. And that enables them to resolve individually. So that's a good practical example of what Aries is. You know what I mean? How it works, how that resolution works. That requires magnification.
And that's something that we see in reality, isn't it? We don't have to go into an orthographic view. We don't have to go into a description of it. We can just get a camera out. We can zoom in, zoom out, and you can see it for yourself. The Johnsberg gives me 100 knock, thank you, and he says get some beer. I don't drink, but I'll get some kombucha. I love kombucha. Our family really goes through a lot of kombucha. We've found a really nice brand that does a lemon lime bitters kombucha. So Johnsberg, thank you for that 100 knock. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go in. There were a couple of videos that I wanted to share yesterday, but didn't get around to it, because I didn't want to interrupt our very special guest, Whack Whack, the local Aboriginal person, who, as I said, the start of the stream, I will be going back and picking his brain about a lot of things, all Aboriginal culture things, about the dream time, about creation, about those sorts of things. But I just want to go through something that it just keeps coming up. As I said before, it's been almost 2 years since the Black Swan came out, January 1st, 2020. So January 1st, 2022, it's going to be 2 years, the Black Swan's birthday. And we still have people coming out with wild, crazy, batshit insane things about why we see what we see in the Black Swan video, in the Black Swan images. This video that I'm about to put up, it's not a new one, but it is the epitome of what the anti-flat earthers, the globe believers, anyone who denies that the Black Swan breaks the globe geometry, anyone who thinks that this could still work on a globe, this just signifies their understanding or lack of understanding of how our world works.
There is no scientific evidence, zero, none, that the Earth is a globe. Wake up to the lies being told to us by NASA and the government. The globe model is easily disprovable to anybody willing to open their eyes and see science for the shysters it is.
These words lingered in the air like a persistent smell, inviting opposition. But unbeknownst to this flat earther, this time, opposition would be more than anticipated.
At Flat Earther, science is not done by wildly guessing and being confident about it. We use the globe model because it accurately describes reality and can make predictions, something that the Flat Earth model is incapable of. Are you prepared to back up your beliefs?
Now, I'll just pause it there. This isn't going to be about science. We went through that last week. Adam, you came on the show. We absolutely destroyed, was it Martimer 81, what he thought science was, how he thought the globe model could be put through the scientific method. Not about science. Globe doesn't it? Definitely doesn't have science.
Standard baller projection. Dear Flat Earther, are you prepared to back up your belief? Dear ballers, we've been waiting for 5-6 years here to listen to your scientific proofs for your ball, mate. Yeah, are you prepared to back it up? Because we're still waiting.
That is the claim on the table, that the ball Earth, the heliocentric model, has all the science, and we're still yet to see one piece of scientific evidence for the globe, for a heliocentric model, for a spherical Earth. There is none, and that's why we say that was a true statement by that flat earther at the beginning, that this guy Blueprint, I think it is, I don't think he's a regular flat Earth anti-flat earther. He just picks things up and makes videos about it. Obviously, he got pretty good reception of this. I think he's got like 80,000 subs. This video got about 13,000 views. But what we're about to see after this, obviously, Adam just said, yeah, this is just a typical baller standpoint of what science is and what the Black Swan is. So we'll go into.
Up your beliefs.
Sorry, mate.
It smells like a burden of proof reversal fallacy is about to come up. Yeah, I haven't got a belief, mate. I don't.
No.
You see what I mean? Just straight away, instead of what you'd expect, a coherent, informed, educated believer in the ball to do and say, "Ta-da! Don't be so silly. Here's all the proof." He's not gone there, has he? To demonstrate his proof. He's asked us to build a straw man, I think, and then allow him to burn it. It smells like it's the standard baller rhetoric, mate. I love it. It's just so old and enjoyable to watch.
I mean, they've got the whole body of science backing them, they claim. Obviously, science doesn't have a body. Science doesn't say things, but they've got the whole scientific community to back the heliocentric model, apparently, is claimed. We're just simply asking, back your bloody claim. You haven't done it. There is no science to back your claim. We'll continue with this video.
At Blueprint, models are not reality. Seriously, all you have to do is look at the horizon to see that.
At Flat Earther, nice deflection, but if you could disprove the globe model, that does not mean that the Earth is flat. Once again, are you prepared to back up your beliefs?
At Blueprint, it wasn't a deflection. I got the horizon from the Black Swan observation. The Black Swan observation is impossible on the globe Earth. Not my problem if you are too lazy to Google it. Wait. From 1 foot above the ground, the horizon line is only 1.22 miles out, yet clearly there are oil platforms visible at 6.2 and 9.1 miles. Bye-bye, ball.
At Flat Earther, lazy. You clearly don't know who you're dealing with, but that's okay. Now, to dismantle your argument. That image you posted, I have seen it many times before. First, I will grant you the assumption that the camera is indeed 1 foot off the ground, though neither you nor I could prove that it isn't higher. If so, we will also know that the horizon distance in miles is the square root of 2 times the height in feet, which actually works out to be 1.4 miles, but whatever. I will also grant you the assumption that the VIGs are at the specified distance. With all that in mind, this could still be a real image on a globe, and here's why. Do you see that shimmery distortion on the rig in the back? This is called atmospheric distortion, which is a result of changing air densities over the water. What we are witnessing is probably just a semi-rare atmospheric distortion called Fata Morgana. P.S. I know that you're not lazy, so you'll look that one up. This is consistent with what we see, and it explains why there are only a few examples like this. Seriously, try to find just a few more photos like this. I'll wait. Also, I would guess that at least tens of feet of the rig's legs are hidden over the horizon. I mean, the rigs are like hundreds of feet tall. Please do not be sad at Flat Earther. You are always welcome to join Team Reality over here. God bless.
And so, science won out in the end, and the Flat Earther was never heard from again.
At Blueprint,
I just want to comment there. So he makes the point that science has won out here by describing something to do with an imagination land, something that we never see in reality, to do with his refraction that he's saying. I just want to, I'll take that off and just show you guys my image here. So this here on the left, that's the Black Swan, the original Black Swans from BMLSB 69. He's claiming that there are maybe tens of meters of the bottom of that rig hidden beneath the Earth curvature, but yet the horizon is in the background. Like, this is the epitome of the globe understanding of the Black Swan. That horizon, in every instance of your globe religion, has to be physical Earth curvature. How is it behind, above the level of those oil rigs in the background? They're just demarcation points. So from a 1 foot observer height, which he gave us, the distance to the horizon appears to be beyond 10 miles, which he gave us. And he gave us a little orthographic view. He only flashed it up for a second, but he gave us a little orthographic view of globe geometry. So he understands that the globe has a geometric limitation. So this image here on the left, that absolutely demolishes the globe limitation, which is 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So at 1 foot, it should only be 1.22 miles to the horizon. So why is it in the background, past those oil rigs, past those demarcation points? It's because we do not have a physical Earth curve horizon. That horizon is not physical. And unwittingly, by saying that it is all to do with refraction, he's admitting that that Earth curve cannot be physical. That horizon cannot be physical. So bye-bye Earth curve. That's why the Black Swan is so devastating. Adam, any comments up until this point?
Bloody loads.
Do you want to go back into the video?
That was a shocking response. The first thing that freaked me out was him claiming he understood Fata Morgana.
Yeah,
I'll
this
refer
is
him
the
to
Fata
QE.
Morgana here. Nothing like the image that we saw in the Black Swan.
What, even in the ball model, Fata Morgana is a translation of things from below the horizon above it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, as QE demonstrates, and I think even Mick West demonstrates what a Fata Morgana is, which is to misinterpret the horizon. So where we see that, we can see the boat because we can resolve it, but there's so much interference on the surface there between what appears to be the horizon and the boat. It's actually just the surface continuing, but you get both a mirroring look underneath what's resolvable, and more importantly, what appears to be a boat floating above the sea, like it's being raptured, I think is Betty's word.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. The reality is what you're seeing there is like I say, is a loss of content in the confused image between what is the horizon and the resolvable boat still. But I bet if you zoomed in on that, color shopped it, you'd see a horizon behind the boat. And that's the reality of the first point. He then takes it to what it is, which is to claim refraction. Which is to fall into QE's trap. I don't know where you want to take this, how detailed now, but as soon as you do that, you're in. This was the point of QE picking this picture. There's plenty of pictures without bendy cranes at the top.
Oh,
I mean, look at that. That's what he's proposing. That's what he's proposing. But even that's left to right, isn't it? And what's still happening is it's horizontal. You've just distorted it, haven't you? Like put on your acid glasses. But that's not the image we're dealing with, is it? What we see is distortion, particularly in the higher parts of the oil rigs, and that's refraction. Brilliant. That's a flat Earth. I will accept that.
Yeah,
that
this
refraction.
here, yeah, that is definitely refraction. Yeah, the higher parts of, and I'm going to have some guests on to talk about this effect, refraction. I had some guests on early in the year to talk about refraction. Rev, he studied refraction back home in France and here in Australia, and we know why this happens. It's from a gas pipe, something that's pumping out hot air above this. Above this oil platform here that is actually attached to the oil platform. That's why we see the bendy cranes. Notice we don't see the bendy. Well, in this image we do because he's distorted it.
Yeah, what's the refraction doing? The refraction, as you say, it's quite specifically. You've got hot air. You've got real perverted refraction. But what's it doing? It's squashing. It's not bending or curving it. It's squashing it and moving it left to right. Look, that's a straight crane arm. Yeah. Look what it's done in that vented air. How it, how it's refracted. It's perverted it so much. Yeah, but you can see that there, but the rest of the image is clear. So
Mm.
what they're claiming is refraction. So I'll give them the refraction on that crane. What's the explanation for the rest of it?
Yeah, look at the feet down here that are touching the water. Obviously, we are seeing the bottom of those feet, but they are nice and straight, aren't they? There's no refraction on that. There's no distortion. It's a nice straight image. That's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing both of those oil platforms touching the water. So there's nothing hidden beneath any curvature. There's nothing hidden in the image. We see the horizon in the background. That's what the Black Swan image is. It's all to do with the horizon. QE's probably pulling his hair out going, why are we addressing this? But why does this keep coming up? That's why I want to address it. My streams are called Flat Earth School. I just want to school people on what we're actually seeing, what it is and what it isn't. Yes, as Adam Meakin just said, those cranes, yeah, they are subject to an effect called refraction. But refraction, how it's defined, is an object relative to the horizon. It is never the horizon being moved relative to the horizon. That is just as a non sequitur. The horizon does not move due to refraction. It is an object moving relative to the horizon, as he is correctly described in his Fata Morgana, which is somewhere around here. He did have his Fata Morgana. The ship floating. Yeah, see, the ship, an object, it appears to be moved up relative to the horizon. And as Adam said, if we zoom in, I'm sure we could see, we could resolve a better horizon. But
this is a good example, Mitchell, isn't it, of the definition of horizon, the apparent position where the sky meets, appears to meet the sea. Yeah, this is a great definition of why it's apparent. Yeah, we know in reality that boat is not floating; it's not been raptured. Yeah, so like I said, you could zoom in, but from the eye, the apparent position of the boat and the apparent position of the horizon are, if we were to reify the horizon as the leading edge of a ball, there's a disconnect with reality there. The boat, like I say, is being raptured. And so this is a great description of, or gave great understanding to me in reality of what the horizon is. It is just that apparent position, that dissolution of resolution.
That's all the horizon is, an apparent position. It is not a physical thing that can block things physically. It is all optical, which this whatever his name is, I forget his name. Whatever his name is, he claims that the horizon is optical. The horizon is refracted by physical Earth curve. That's the point that QE want to put these images out, because we've got nice, clean, crisp images without the bendy cranes. But for them to say refraction, that means that their physical Earth curve is no more. It is not geometric anymore. It is not something that physically blocks the bottom of ships, that physically could block the bottom of these oil platforms, like in this image here, my image on the right. So this is a claim of Earth curvature, because we're not seeing the horizon behind the oil platforms. We're seeing the horizon in front of the oil platforms. But as you can see, even this image on the right here, that I think Dr. Phil Bell came in and gave me this image asking, why do we see the horizon in front of these oil platforms? This is still a Black Swan. It's still from a 1 foot observer height. It is still from BMLS B69, from the same place on a different day, 4 days apart. Both are Black Swans, globe believers. The horizon should be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. It is still 1 foot. The horizon should be no further than 1.22 miles. We're still almost seeing the bottom of the oil platform at platform Hill House, 6.2 miles. The horizon is round about there. It is still a Black Swan. It's just not as good a Black Swan as the one on the left that we use. But you can see there's no refraction, there's no bendy cranes. It's nothing to do with refraction, but it's still a Black Swan. It's still devastating. There is no curve proof ever seen. I've got another super chat here. Five Angels gives me $10 to say COVID refraction, adaptive and intelligent Allegedly. Thank you, Five Angels.
Well, kind of linked to the point I wanted to make. I said I happily conceded in that those bendy cranes. Okay, for both models, we're happy to say that is refraction. Now, the standard, either of these Black Swans are fine. We as a flat earther, I say, well, why do I see it? Yeah, I'll say because it's there. Why is the crane arm a bit bendy? Because of refraction. Now the baller says, why do I see it? And what comes to that? They attribute the same thing to the bendy arm refraction. But then when you look at that Black Swan, they also say the reason I see it, even though it's impossible, is not even in the Black Swan a 7/6 refraction. This is almost close to infinity over R refraction, to rendering it straight. So they've got this type of refraction, infinity over R, infinite refraction. So it looks flat, plus the accepted refraction, the way we understand refraction, the proven refraction. And that's the paradigm they're in. That's the kind of step they have to take now. They've now got to have two types of refraction working in very different ways to render this image. One of them is proven, and one is just completely necessary to explain what to a flat earther is. I see it because it's there, it's in front of me. But to them, it's not in front of them, and they require two types of refraction, and they always fall back and go refraction. But I mean, if you're arguing with them, Mitchell, it's to differentiate those two types. They're two very big claims, and they play out differently in both of those Black Swans there.
Yeah, I mean, one type of refraction is something that we can view, is something that is detailed, is something that is described and able to see. The other type of refraction uses an R value, 7/6 of the R value, something that this Black Swan absolutely demolishes. It becomes a paradox. This is, I loved it when Arwen was going into his paradox about the Black Swan. The Black Swan here, if it's a geometric horizon, the R value has been broken. You no longer have an R value. And then the globers say, well, it's refraction, 7/6R. You have to have the R value in the first place. The Black Swan just demolished the R value. So you no longer have the R value to slide into your 7/6R refraction to bring it back in. So it becomes a paradox. You don't have the R value, but you need the R value for it to be visible on a globe, but you don't have the R value because it's been geometrically, it just becomes the paradox. It goes round and round. It does not work. Arwen, if you want to type the paradox into chat the way you describe it, it would be much appreciated because you describe it so much better than myself. BMLSB is in the chat. Please subscribe to him today. He said the image on the right is actually from a 5 to 7 foot observer height, which actually puts the horizon about 2.5 miles. So still about 4 miles short of where it should be, where that 6.2 mile distance to the platform hill should be. But as Adam was just saying, they need an R value for their refraction, for standard refraction. Refraction in a standard form, 7/6 of the R value. The Black Swan absolutely demolishes the R value. You do not have a geometric limitation. You do not have the R value of 39.59 miles. On the left image here, from 1 foot observer height, 10 mile distance to the horizon, your new radius value is 264,000 miles just from this one single image. And it gets worse. There are better Black Swans that BMLSB 69 has released one this year, not too long ago. Go to his channel after this stream and check it out. Arwen says, if the horizon is not geometric, then you cannot establish the radius optically in order to use the terrestrial refraction formula. Exactly, it becomes a paradox. Beautifully put, Arwen. There was a bit more of that. Don't know. I think we'll go through another time because I really want to get to your presentation, Adam. I think that's enough on.
That's a good link, as it's horizon based, you know. So.
Definitely, because I'll bring it up now. So these are some images that I sent Adam after my very first maiden live stream flight of my drone in one of my flat Earth school streams. So I gave Adam a bunch of images from 2 meters, 3 meters, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120 meters. So all different elevation heights. And what Adam has come out with after looking at this data is astounding. It is monumental. This could be a massive breakthrough for how we understand elevation angles. Does it have a relationship with the horizon and that celestial object as you go higher or lower in elevation? Adam, take away.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make as bold I wouldn't say I've got a proof here. I think I described it on the show. It made me smile. It's always nice when you do things honestly, you know, honest endeavor in it, and just see what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, what the results will mean, what they will render, what they mean. That what to me, sometimes you're not going to get any real proof out of stuff like this. It's just an interesting folly, shall we say. I said it was something that from the back in Dave, and why I was excited after I'd seen Dave Weiss do it, and I was excited why Ranty was getting a drone, and there was things that I'd wanted to get some data, and you kindly said you'd humour me, Mitchell. So thanks for that. And I know I've got some more to do, and this is going to be important. This is just one set of data. I want to get lots and lots and lots, because one set means nothing, but it's a start. So yeah, I asked Mitchell just for this data, and as guys, 10th and Brian and Mitchell just kind of agreed that this would be a reasonable way of analysing a photograph, because that's what we've got here. We've just got a load of photographs. The constants we've got is kind of the lens, and you'll say, you can back me up here, Mitchell, in terms of the gyro, that we're getting a kind of stable level picture.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a bit of context to the actual pictures. So this is from a DJI Mavic 2 Pro. It has a 3-axis gimbal on it, so it is self-leveling. There is a little button on it that you can point the camera straight down, then you press it again and it points the camera straight horizontal. It creates its own horizontal plane. So all these images here have just the camera pointed absolutely horizontal, absolutely level, and I'm just going up and down in elevation.
Cool, thanks. I'll just start with the horizon stuff. You see here I've got the 5 meter one, and I will zoom in a bit so you can see. And we've just tried to define the horizon here. You'll see there's a mismatch, and that's because it seems to continue over. And I won't bore you too much with the detail, but we've done a number of looks at this, and in different points of the screen there are different resolutions of where the horizon renders separate to other bits. And these are my disclaimers, because I always like to be honest. So you can see here, this is a good one. So what we tended to do was look at it and take the average point. And this is an apparent position, and it's apparently different in different places. So it was hard to say when I'm analysing a photo what I'm going to do. So I tried to be as fair as I could, and if there was a differential of where this line was, I would try to take the average of it.
Yeah, what we're talking about here is when we're zooming in on this image here. So when we see the sun, that reflection where that ends is a different level horizon than we actually see the horizon over to the right. If you want to zoom in a little bit on that, where you put one of those. So we've got different sort of, and it's the image is square. Those lines are straight. They're two questions that myself and 10th Man asked initially to make sure that these lines that Adam has drawn to signify the horizon. So the horizon is about there, to the right of the image, and then we pan back to where the sun is, and it appears that the horizon has dropped for whatever reason.
What I'll do want to, these are arbitrary. What was interesting in reality was, look, if we look at the 110, you can see it's pretty much level with the top of the cliff. If I go down,
Yeah, it's 110 meters above sea level.
Go to 5, look. You can see where it's sitting there.
Mhm.
Go to 10. Again, that's a better line. There you go. You see that? That's just a clean fit all the way across.
So that's 10 meters above
yeah.
sea level, is it?
So but you can see it's sitting at the bottom of the cliffs. And some of these variances you'll see in the data, actually, those two aren't great to compare because there's one of the anomalies there, how their rising renders slightly different, even in relation to the cliff. But what we've done is we've took the picture, so you can see how we've tried to define the horizon. I've given that a y-axis coordinate with regards to the frame of reference of the picture, because this is all we can do is, in Roofy style, look at pixels. Now, I don't want to extrapolate and draw the conclusions he does, because I recognize this is just an image that takes into account perspective. I think it was John, Father of a Stone Child, saying, well, what are you doing? And we're basically trying to understand all this Rayleigh criterion stuff. Yeah, just looking at what happens in reality. It's all right reading books, but sometimes it's good to just do it, test it yourself. So what I've got here is I just got a standard size bullseye. I've tried to position it in all the pictures, center screen, center to the sun. The sun's glare is different in different pictures. So I've done that, and that's what I kind of did first, independently, before I extracted the data. I've tried to be as independent as you can on any kind of venture like this. So there's all the pictures, and like I said, what I've done then is take this center point as an XY coordinate within the frame in terms of pixels. I've taken this Y axis point for where the horizon runs across, or its average, and I've taken the distance between the center and the horizon on all the different images as we go through that. I think it's about 15 in there or something. So that's what this data represents: the X, Y, the Y of the horizon, and then the distance between the center of the sun to the horizon. And if you look here, it's very erratic. What we've got on the bottom scale is the altitude, and on the top, this is just in terms of their pixel position within the frame. So you can see it's quite erratic. There's no curve here. In fact, it's contrary to a curve. Sometimes it goes, the higher you go here, look, it's actually lower. It's in a very different position. Then it goes up here. And if we were expecting this to represent ball Earth, we'd expect a nice curve, I would assume. So this is the distance between the sun and the horizon. The same plays out between the horizon's position within the frame. You see, it does alter. It's a small trend here. It's exemplified. And the same with the sun's Y position within the frame. Slight adjustment. And I'll come back to this one. With regards to these, they look quite dramatic because they're described, look, within, what's this, 12 pixels there, look. Very small amount within the frame. So if I plot this again on the actual different kind of relative scale to how you're viewing it in the picture, this kind of shows you the differential in the distance between the sun and the horizon. Wherever the horizon's position, wherever the sun is, as we demonstrate, this is the difference within the picture. There's no curvy trend. There's nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, if people haven't picked up on that top graph there, this is the trend between the horizon and the distance, like in pixels, to the sun. So as we rise in elevation, height, we are still getting around about the same pixel count from the horizon to the sun.
Yeah, pretty much the same. So again, this was the actual horizon's position plotted in relative scale to the thing. And again, you see, even as we go higher, we see further and we see more. But the positioning of the horizon would tend to support that old flat Earth adage of the horizon rises with you. And again, we're not seeing it dropping within the frame of the gyro stabilized drone. Wherever it resolves, it's resolving roughly at this 700 pixel mark on the Y axis. This is the sun's Y position. Again, looks a little erratic here, but look, if you look, pretty much it's staying on that same straight line. The sun's X coordinate is different. As you go higher, it moves from left of frame to right of frame. This is why I want some more data to see what happens on the other side, in the middle. When we're at noon, what happens as we go up? Does it just stay straight? Lots of data to look at there, but I think this can be the widening of the image. I wouldn't want to draw any inference on this, but it's a lovely S-shaped synovial. Make of that one. These are relative positions. So what we're looking at here is a kind of rate of change of position, not the sun doing anything, just it actually changing in the frame.
Keep in mind that the sun is only an apparent thing with apparent position, with apparent size. Adam's done his best here to try and center that bullseye just where the center of the sun appears to be, and to put the horizon where the horizon appears to be. This is all apparent. So to lend anything other than what is in the images here is, I don't know, is only one set of images. I've sent Adam another set of images, which it takes a while to go over. It takes a while to put these bullseyes and determine where the horizon appears to be, and then count the pixels in between them. But it's something that hasn't been done before, something that hasn't really been investigated, and something that, on face value here, why does the pixel count, which is essentially the apparent height of the sun above the horizon, why does that not change? Well, significantly anyway. What was that range? It was like 12 pixels or something.
Yeah, let me just scroll over a little bit.
Why does that height not change between 2 meters to 120 meters elevation of the observer height? Why does the relationship between the horizon and the sun not change? That's what we would expect to happen if we were living on a globe, because as we get higher, there's more curvature that we're seeing over, so it drops away from us at a squared rate. So if we were living on a globe, we would expect the distance, the pixel count from the horizon to the sun to change dramatically. This is look at this, it doesn't hardly change at all.
This is what I say when it made you smile, when we've been talking about the artificial horizon, and it's lovely, and it shows that the way in which we're measuring the stars, we can define a level and measure the angle. And that's kind of what this is showing to me. We can, even at altitude, use the horizon to define a level. And that is not command. You don't have to worry about curvature. These calculations were working with just altitude, and more importantly, the apparent position of the star is rendering, or the sun in this case is rendering and keeping everything proportional. So it's showing you that the angle you measure, irrespective of your altitude, is going to be the same. And I spoke to Riley, who I like to have an objective opinion from, and he said, "Well, I want to see what it would look like on a ball, because they're it's flat." So we're analysing photos here. So the best I could do was kind of go to kind of Black Swan stuff and say, well, look, if we're assuming we're on a ball, then we can use the Black Swan to 1.22 times the observer height. Yeah, it's the distance to the horizon. That should affect, that should have some effect and show some form of natural curve that plays out. So I've just kind of put that general trend graph in to say, well, this is what we'd be looking at in terms of the distance between the center of that sun here and the horizon. So as we then go up, we'd expect this to change in that kind of general trend. in relation to that. So with regards to the higher we go, the further we could see, the further the horizon should be dipping down, which is that counterclaim to in the early days that the horizon rises to eye level. So if I go just back to that graph, this is kind of the only thing I show representatively that what we'd want to see in there, which is that change that you would expect from the Black Swan data. But you can see there's that general curve, but more importantly, that's not applied in any of this. And this is what I'd expect to see in the difference between the horizon position and the sun. Nothing massive, but at least something played out that relates to curvature. But say what you get is a general trend of straightness, that it stays exactly the same, and in detail you get the exact opposite of any kind of trend related to geometry. You can see it's all over the shop. There's nothing. Look at this. I mean, let's say at 90, the difference is the same as at what, 10? Yeah. So there's no trend you can apply that relates to that. Yeah.
This image, the graph on the right there, Adam. So this is what we would expect to see if there were a geometric limitation to the horizon. If we did have a sphere with a physical Earth curve edge, that's what we should see, a relationship between the horizon and the luminary. So as we go higher, we are told that the horizon drops a significant amount. And as you go even higher, it should be a squared relationship. But we do not see this graph. In reality, if you go back over to the left, Adam, we see no relationship to geometry at all. There is no correlation between the elevation of the observer and the elevation angle of a luminary above the horizon. Like, this is, on face value, this is quite monumental in our understanding of how our world could work.
Yeah. Lots more photos to look at, but I just found that very interesting, that first set of data, that it's like that there was nothing to even ponder over. You went, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it might not be any proof of where we actually live, but it definitely proves that we do not, once again, we do not see, measure, observe, experience any curvature at all. The surface of the Earth does not curve. There is no relationship between the observer height and the elevation angle in these set of images. It's nothing that we should expect to see on a globe. It should be a set geometry. The globe model, with a radius of 3959 miles, can only have a distance to the horizon of 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That is a physical limitation of a physical globe, a physical sphere. That's what we should see. This graph here, as the drone goes higher, the relationship between the horizon and the luminary should increase with a squared value. We do not see that when we actually do this in reality, because we're not living on a globe. We can go back to the Black Swan and confirm this, but doing this a different way from a drone, increasing the elevation of the drone and seeing the apparent angle between the horizon and the luminary hardly changes. It's obviously more investigation is needed, but just on face value, this is, I would say, another globe killer.
Yeah,
it's fantastic work. I'll just play. If was there any more comments about this specific thing, Adam, I just wanted to play a video after this.
No, I think I'm done. I look forward to chewing through the next set, and I'll come back when I've been through those.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while. Like, I've given Adam another set of images from, so we could see the both sides of the horizon, either side of the sun, because I gave. Do you want to just put those an image up, just to show that it's a bit hard to determine the horizon to the left side of the sun there. So we've got point perpendicular on the left side, a piece of land, and we've kind of only really got the right portion of the horizon visible. So that's kind of the baseline over here. And I gave Adam another set of images a little bit south, so the sun is kind of more in the middle. So we've got horizon on the left and right. So that will be the next set of images that Adam will be going through.
Just for point of clarity, you can see here the number of pixels I'm arguing with and arguing over. These are these lines, and before I make a decision, they're minute. They're not going to make a difference to this line. They're going to make a difference in this a little bit, but they're not going to disrupt this trend. But they're certainly not going to make a difference to this line. So
no,
it's odd.
It's very odd.
Yeah. You would expect much better symmetry. Do you know what I mean? If they this is the thing within the ball model, they have to reify these things and make them physical, and by doing so, you would expect that to see something play out in the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it would be obvious. It would be observable.
Yeah, but that's why I'm not making a claim. I'm not relating this to any form of geometry. What I'm analyzing, I'm looking at how we analyze images, and in terms of when we take and look with our eyes, what's happening. That's all I'm kind of looking at, and using those images to say, wow, look, the sun's relative position to my eye doesn't change no matter how high I am. My eye is the drone lens, but that's what I found interesting. I don't want to ascribe it as a proof for any form of nature of the earth. As a baller, I would be stumped as to how I'd try and use that data as any form of proof, even though fundamentally it should reveal something if we're on a ball.
I want to just put it great in the chat. Holographic sun. All we can take away from this data, from these images, is it's all optical. It is not a physical relationship. If there was a physical relationship, we should see something like the graph on the right that Adam showed. We should see a squared relationship. As we go higher, we should see the horizon become further distance to the luminary. And I just want to share this this video that kind of goes into what we should be seeing on a globe. Oh, it's going a bit crazy there. I'll just refresh that. I don't know why that's gone mental there on the crescendo of the point that I wanted to make. It's not about rising eye levels. It's more about what we should see if we were on a globe. So that's a physical relationship. The higher you go, the lower the horizon, the physical Earth curve horizon must be. At a squared relationship, as dictated by Earth curve geometry. is a great representation of what we should have seen from my drone. The observer height increases. The horizon gets lower and lower and lower as a squared relationship. Now this goes on to extrapolate out onto things like the horizon does rise to eye level and that sort of thing. But this is what I wanted to show, that the higher the observer point, I'll just mute this and we'll go through it again. The higher the observer, the lower, not exponentially, but a squared relationship that the horizon should have if we're on a physical globe. The higher you get, the lower and lower and lower the horizon should be. In these images that I've given Adam that he's just gone through, we don't see that relationship. We don't see that physical relationship between the horizon and the elevation angle of the sun. It's just not there. We just did not see it. We did not observe it. That's what we should expect on a globe. It's not a physical relationship that we have just viewed in these images from the Adam Meakin. I really appreciate you taking the time, Adam, to go through those images. They're fantastic. And the
Cheers for taking them, pal. I think we should get some at Zenith. That'll be, if we define your Zenith, and then let's get some at Zenith as well, and see what happens there. I think that would be interesting data to add to it, and maybe a commensurate time after Zenith, well, wherever they were taken, you know, after, and then we'd have some nice data to compare.
I mean, it's something that hasn't really been done before, so we're kind of making up as we go. Like, what kind of data should we be trying to gather here? We're not really looking for a specific outcome. We just want to see what we see. It's all optical, and we want to see the relationship between the observer's height above sea level and the elevation angle between the horizon and a luminary. If we're living on a globe, it should be a physical relationship. But obviously, we don't see that in this data. We don't see the physical relationship. So what could it be? Who knows? We're not, as Adam kept saying, we're not ascribing this data to be proving anything other than it's all optical.
So that last video though does demonstrate the point that I say. If I was a baller, that's kind of what I'd be wanting to happen. The higher I go, the further the horizon is, the more the angle changes between it and the luminary. Because I've not rotated in their world, so that star or sun is fixed, yeah, based on my rotational position and relationship to it, yeah. So as I go higher, the horizon has to go lower, so the angle should change. If I was a baller, that would be something I'd want to do to demonstrate my model. That data doesn't appear to match with reality, or that idea.
I mean, at the start of the show, we were talking about the globe has no scientific evidence, and I want to leave the show with the notion that the globe has no evidence, being scientific, being visual, measurements. It has no evidence in reality at all. You do not, nothing in our world can lead you to the conclusion that we are on a sphere, that we are moving, that we're rotating, that we're in a vacuum of space. None of reality can lead you to that conclusion. You have to be told. And like we say it over and over, give us evidence of the globe, globe believers. You have a religious belief. That means you do not have any evidence of what you actually see. Did you want me to screen share those images again?
No, just putting them on, looking at them, pondering Mitchell more than anything. It was, I think the beautiful, wondrous things that reveal a lot of the things that we've been looking at, and as I said, particularly with regard to navigation, understanding what's going to happen, what's actually happening in the heavens. They're not claims I want to make, but just looking at data like that, like I said on Nathan's, made me smile. because it supports me in my future endeavors. I would hate to be a baller because I don't know what I would do with that data. I don't know where I'd try and take it, you know?
It's just another painful aspect of our reality for the globe believers. We never see curvature. We never see a physical horizon blocking things. It's all optical, and that's what we're gathering out of this data. It's all optical. That's all we can definitely know from this data. It is not a physical relationship. It's only optical. And obviously, there is no evidence. It is obvious. It is observable. It is measurable with the sextant that we do not have a curved surface. The sextant would not work on a curved surface. It has to be a flat surface. There was one thing that I was going to make before the end of the show, but that's fine. I think we've done enough globe destroying today. There is no. I did call the show curvature found, something like that, but yeah, it was just clickbait. There is no curvature. We do not see any curvature in our reality. You only have curvature maybe in the maths, but the maths, which proves things, globers apparently. If you think maths proves things, your geometry to a sphere, that is maths. 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That should be your physical Earth curve if you're living on a globe of a radius 3959 miles. We do not see that. Black Swan. It's came over from there. Since January 1, 2020, we have had no curvature evidence. We have no radius to your globe. The globe is dead. And now, that's the point I was going to make. What me and Adam are doing here, what we're doing on Flat Earth Debates, what we're doing Flat Earth School, on Quantum Erasure Show, on all these Flat Earth channels now, we know that we are on a flat Earth. And so now from that, we know that the debate is over. We don't need to debate people. We still do, just to try and help the audience understand, to get to our level of understanding of what we can comprehend from our world. We know it's flat, but the conversations that we're having now, the conversations that myself and Adam are having now, 10th Man, Quantum Racer, Adam, all these people, we are trying to just figure out where it is that we could be living, how our world could work. We're investigating our physical and natural world. And that's what's so wondrous about these images. Like, how does this work? That's what we're asking. Obviously, there's a globe paradigm. We are dictated how it should work. We don't see that. We know we're living on a flat Earth. We're trying to understand how it does work in our reality. And everyone that sees these images and understands that you're not living on a globe, it is a wondrous, wondrous thing. Adam, how glorious is it to be a flat earther right now?
Oh, it's great. At the beginning, I know it was on Flatside's channel. There's Roofy shouting out, do this, show the dip to the horizon. We've already taken to the woodshed their dip to the horizon calculations in respect to the bowl and show now it's fundamentally based on a horizon being a geometric edge. And we can show it doesn't match those calculations. What we're doing here is some of the older stuff that, shout out to Temp, we're getting greater understanding of our beautiful flat Earth. Yeah, we're not trying to ascribe geometry. We're trying to understand how our eyes work here, and we're getting a really good understanding. Like I said, shout out to Tenth because he's got some pre-ball Bodici understandings of what's going off. And this is kind of fundamentally for me that the purpose of these observations is to take the data from that and match it to what they're describing. And this fits very, very, very well to me. So I'm looking forward to it. We're on the beach. Mitchell's on the beach with a drone, yeah, and we're just discovering more and more, yeah. And the more we discover, yeah, I'd say we'll give you the results, and unfortunately, they're going to be hard for you to swallow, as tonight's are. It won't help you in any way, but they're certainly helping us, but in a different way. Because, like I say, you're going to take things like that and pretend it's going to define the nature of what you're living on. I think that's naive. That's not what we're doing.
No, we're just investigating what we see, how our eyes could work. Like I keep saying, we don't have this data before. This is something that hasn't been investigated publicly. Anyway, we don't know how this works. We're investigating our world, how it works, how it renders to us. We may come out with a less understanding of when we went in, but that's okay. That's what happens. We think we know things, we investigate it, and we come out knowing less because we can do away with beliefs. We can do away with what we thought we knew about reality. And that's fine. That's what we want to do. We want to investigate reality and see where it leads us. We don't want to have a conclusion already in our heads that it's a globe, and I want to go and investigate that globe. I want to go and see the curvature. I want to go and see, even on the flat Earth side, I want to go and see a flat Earth. I want to go and see a plane. We're not doing that. We're just investigating our world, and we're looking at the results, and we're going to make them public like we have today. And like Adam said, it is very painful for globe believers to look at these results and to come to any conclusion that fits their religion. That's all they have. They have beliefs. They don't have proof. They don't have reality, unfortunately. That's the best thing a flat earther has, is reality. It is fantastic. Adam, Megan, thank you so much for coming on Flat Earth School again. I really appreciate it. Thanks, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me, everyone. I'll see you next time.
There will be a next time. There's plenty more to discuss. If you feel like the world turns on you, turn to Flat Earth School. It is around us 24/7 since the beginning of existence. I've been Mitchell from Australia. He's been Adam Meakin, and we are definitely not living on a globe. Get out and experience your Flat Earth School. It is the best teacher you could ever hope for. You just need to listen, ask the questions, and learn. See you guys.